What if we had a belief about the world without even knowing it? And I would suggest that that's the world we live in. We believe that matter is the most fundamental property of the universe. We believe in materialism, but we don't even know that. We think it's a fact. And one might argue that, does that have any real impact on the way we live and how we organize as a society? I'd like to suggest that perhaps it's one of the most important beliefs that shapes our society. Join me on this journey to explore why. So, I grew up thinking I was an atheist or an agnostic. Turns out I'm not, and I didn't even know about it. And it's not just me. In fact, I think all of Western society have been tricked into thinking that we believe in science or that science is our lighthouse. But that's not the essence of how we see the world. And if you think this is an anti-science channel, then it's not. It's definitely not. This is my contribution to understanding this little flaw that somehow found its way in of how we understand the world. I'm all in for science. I worked at the university, I worked in research institutes, I love science. But the way we understand science, or the way I understood science, was skewed. I thought science helped explain what reality is. It doesn't. It tests how reality behaves. Yeah, do you see the difference? I have a whole episode if you want to dive into it deeper, but the core is science tests. It only answers how. The is question, that's a philosophical one, or you could even say religious one. Science doesn't answer that because it doesn't have the capability to answer that even. But in our societies, we do have a belief system, a metaphysical model, an understanding of what reality is, but we don't mention it by name. So I just assumed that it was one with science, like they were merged somehow. And in the last 10 years has been a journey for me, almost feeling a bit cheated, of growing up thinking I didn't have a belief system and realizing I do, because it's embedded in the way I was taught science growing up. And the metaphysical model I'm talking about is materialism or physicalism. And if that concept is new to you, just briefly, that metaphysical model suggests that consciousness, my internal world and your internal world, is a consequence of complex structures of matter, such as our nervous system. And when matter becomes complex enough, then consciousness arises out of that. And that we just take for granted. In our societies, they're kind of centered around that way of understanding the world. But it is a belief system. You can choose to believe it or not. You're free to do that. We're all free to do that. But it took me so many decades to even understand that it was a belief system and that it hasn't been proven, because we can never prove it. It is just a, how do you say, an explanation model for everything we've seen in the world. Science can explain how something works, and then we can make a theory, a model of what that means. So in fact, I didn't grow up an atheist or without a belief system. It just wasn't framed as one of those religious ones. It was one of society. And in the last 10 years, my inward journey, meditation, has brought me closer and closer to this wisdom that is spoken about in the religious scriptures. It's almost like what you call the I just had a brain freeze. The perennial philosophy, the thread that all religious teachings have in common, which is I won't say what it is. This is my understanding of it. It is that we're all one. There's this unity thought behind it. What all the religious teachings are pointing to the same essence, and that is what we call the perennial philosophy. I guess the reason we can't really frame it is because if we frame it, we just create another philosophy, another religion. So the perennial philosophy is that essence of understanding the world that all the religions are pointing to. And where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so I was looking inwards and realizing more and more that there is something with my way of understanding the world, with me understanding myself, that isn't fully aligning up with this Western model of there's only matter, matter is dead, the universe is like a lifeless place that floats around, and every now and then it combines into complex structure, and there's something like a soul popping up or consciousness or whatever this me thing is. It doesn't align with the spiritual path that feels so truthful. There's so much aliveness. There's more love. There's more meaning. There's more belonging. But my rational mind is still so entrenched in this belief system of materialism, of the Western way of looking at it. And for me, for a long time, these two didn't match. It was like I was being torn between what my mind rationally could comprehend and what my heart and my intuition was telling me. And I didn't know that materialism wasn't actually merged with science. And when that piece of the puzzle finally resolved itself, or when that dawned on me, that no, science has not proven materialism. Materialism is just one hypothesis or a model that explains what science shows. I can part ways with materialism and still hold all the dignities of a scientist. I can still use all the results from science, but there is no need for me to hold on to materialism. In fact, today, I would argue, and this is my personal view, that there are much more suitable metaphysical models that is in more harmony, or that can make sense of more of the things that we see in quantum physics, in this micro level physics, not only on the Newtonian level, which is the level where we live in, where an object isn't tiny little vibrations, or it is, but that's not how we interact with it. And the one thing this thing does, exchanging materialism for another metaphysical model, it all of a sudden doesn't make the analytical scientific mind in opposition to the heart and to the intuition, that there is something more to life, to essence, than just a lifeless universe where my consciousness spontaneously, or not spontaneously, but erupted out of complex matter. No, if you put a non-dual perspective, a metaphysical model of non-duality, it links the both of them. They merge. And for me, well, partly it has resolved my own conflict within this. Spirituality and meditation all of a sudden go hand in hand with my scientific understanding, my scientific and curiosity, and my inquiry into how the world works is no longer that different into my inquiry about what the essence of me is. And the reason I'm talking about this now is because that's what fuels this channel. My enthusiasm of realizing that a materialistic worldview is causing so much suffering in my life and in the world as a whole. And I didn't even know I had that as a belief system. Like, I was devoted to a religion that I didn't even know I had. And that's a horrible sentence to put on a society. Yes, freedom of religion, allow people to choose. But here we have our society founded on a metaphysical belief system that none of us even knows that we have, or not consciously. We haven't chosen it. We were just kind of spoon-fed it. So this, me talking about non-dualism, isn't a crusade to convert people. No, it's more of a enthusiasm to enlighten people, so at least they know they have the option. They can stay with materialism if that makes sense to them. They're free to do that. But unless people know that there's an option, that materialism is actually not the same as science, then they don't even have an option. And one might say, well, these are just these fringe things when you sit on a Sunday afternoon looking at the cloud, philosophizing about what life is. That's when it matters. But that's not the only time it matters. It matters all the time in our everyday life. When we tie our shoelaces, am I moving dead matter around? Or is it more of exploration of my inner world that is allowing for this experience to arise? That is two completely different ways of engaging in the daily boring activity that I do. And when I look at another person, am I seeing them in this shell of something made of matter, some inert substance, very different from my inner, like, when I look at a person, am I seeing matter and then they have this little enclosed inner world which is completely different from mine? They are an entity separated from me. Or do I see us as essentially the same awareness, looking at each other? The way I relate to that human being is mind-blowingly different, because when I feel that in fact consciousness is the same thing, we're made of the same thing, there is no boundary of any other material between us. It's the essence of life, all of it. The way that feels, the lack of separation, it feels like love. That means I love the world, I love myself, I love other beings, not by enforcing love, but simply by relaxing back, by looking at the world from a completely different metaphysical model. There is love arising in me. What a different world we would live in if people naturally loved each other. And our current ideology, or this belief system, makes it very hard for us to love each other. Not impossible, of course. You can believe in materialism and still love people. But from the materialistic point of view, then love is kind of a fringe thing. It's something very odd in the universe. From a materialistic standpoint, the universe is made of lifeless matter, and then every here and there life pops up, plants, animals, humans, and inside of those organisms Every now and then there is a little spark of love. It is a very, very rare thing in the universe. If that's your perspective, then love is hardly, it's not even, you know, it's trace elements. But if you have a metaphysical model like non-dualism, then all of a sudden love is the fabric that's underneath everything in the universe. It's not a little trace element in the vastness of everything else. No, it is the essence. It is the center of the universe. And from a materialistic standpoint, what we leave behind when we die is the tangible assets that we have created. If we built a big monument of ourselves, that's what's going to stay, because it's when we die, when our bodies decay, consciousness just evaporates. All my memories, all my dreams, all my thoughts, all the things I learned during my life, they just evaporated as though they never happened. What's left behind is what I built out in the world, which matter I collected together. Not as that's all that matters, but that model kind of implies that's what's left, because that's the essence building blocks of the universe. While is non-dualism, where consciousness is the central thing. It's similar to consciousness only model. What is left when this body dissolves is consciousness. So the essence that's left of my life are my passions, my creativity, the emotions I felt. My experiences is the essence of my legacy all of a sudden. Imagine what a different priorities that would be. If the legacy in society isn't the wealth that we accumulate in material things, it's the legacy that lives in all of us. Human beings' inner world all of a sudden is upgraded from a non-dualistic standpoint. That is the legacy that we as a society leave behind. People's inner worlds, how they felt when they were alive, their creativity, their thoughts, their memories are not a byproduct. No, it's the essence of a life. That's it. A society built on that foundation, where our inner lives matter, who knows what that would look like, but I'm pretty sure it will be different than the Western world, which is built on a materialistic point of view. And that is why it matters. That is why we need to see that growing up and believing in science isn't free from belief system. I mean, technically it could be, but it hasn't been for me. It's been merged with materialism. And materialism isn't that old. It's like 100+ years. Since the Industrial Revolution, basically. What is that? 150, 200 years ago. It's a very tiny time span for humanity. I mean, we could still believe that it's true, but we don't even take it up for evaluation. We have so much merged with this belief system that we don't even know that it is a belief system. How crazy is that? I went around priding myself on being rational and logic, adhering to science, but all of this was done within the cage of materialism. I didn't even know I was only rationally moving within this. For me, it's mind-blowing. And it almost becomes like looking out on a crazy world when I see that that is so entrenched in most of us, in institutions, in universities. People suggesting that consciousness is fundamental might risk their careers. Well, less so now. But still, it's a revolutionary idea. And if you're not in physics research, in like the cutting edge quantum physics experiments, then suggesting that consciousness is primary is very revolutionary. It's very out there, woo-woo-y. Yes, but what if it's not? I mean, for me personally, if you follow my channel, you probably know already that for me, when you compare non-dualism with, and specifically analytical idealism, which is the metaphysical model that I most strongly believe is closer to reality. Yes, then materialism doesn't even stand a chance. But that's my opinion. I guess what I really want to do is shake people up and realize that they are actually founded on materialism, and question or like invite this curiosity. Do I really want to believe in this system? Is this a belief system that I truly believe in? Give people a choice, because that thing alone, switching metaphysical model, I think that can change our world. I think it can bring about the unity that we all long for. And it might come, or it might be able to change. It might be able to bring about a fundamental shift by starting questioning the metaphysical belief system that our society is founded on. Yes. There was a lot of words I dropped in this video. Maybe you were familiar with them all. It took me a long time to start navigating words in this field, and I think now I've almost become blind to forgetting to explain what they are. So if you're curious about this topic and it was anything I said that was weird, you didn't understand, you don't need to agree with me, but just didn't understand me, please do drop a comment in the comment section below. Maybe I already have a video that explains it in depth, or I'd love to be shining a light on those areas where I'm not expressing myself, because I'm not trying to be woo-woo or vague. I'm trying to be crystal clear. I just don't have the outside perspective enough to understand when I'm not. Yes. Thank you for sharing curiosity with me, being engaged in these topics, thinking that it matters. I'm very glad to have you on board. Curious people can change the world. Yes. Take care, my friend. I hope to see you next time.